great mentors, great leaders in an organization were really good at creating moments. Moments in the workplace where people experience themselves best because they were with them, right? Great mentors know how to make sure that how people experience you and how they experience themselves when they're with you really matters. And they did that simply through moments. Moments are those significant times in our lives that are different. It's unique. It stands out.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. This is your host Neha at peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view, integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award that's specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and channel that receives more than 400,000 visitors a year, and we also publish several interviews with well-known names globally every month. We have with us today Clint Pulver, fondly known as the undercover millennial. Clint works with organizations that want to retain, engage, and inspire their employees. As the president and founder of the Center for Employee Retention, Clint has transformed how corporations create lasting loyalty through his work in research as the undercover millennial. He has appeared in America's Got Talent and in several different feature films with actors like Jack Black and John Heder. Clint was given the prestigious Emmy Award in 2020 and was also named one of the Business Q magazine's top 40 under 40 for his work in helping organizations elevate their why of mentorship in the workspace and how connected and engaged employees yield loyal and long-term retention within organizations. With a blend of humor, unforgettable stories, and action takeaways that stick, Clint convinces audiences on the power of the mentorship effect and why some leaders create lasting loyalty and others don't. In his new book, I Love It Here, Clint has revealed the research and unscripted truths of the 10,000 plus employees that he has interviewed as the undercover millennial. So Clint, we're absolutely thrilled to get into conversation with you today. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks for letting me be on the show.
Thank you, Clint. So let's just jump right into it to ask you the first question. So Clint, you've had a phenomenal journey by working with top global corporations. So can you tell our audience in a nutshell that great work that you do as a leadership and development specialist?
Yeah. So I travel primarily now as a professional speaker, but for the last 5 years, I have worked as the undercover millennial.
Yeah.
And how it would work, it's kind of like Undercover Boss, if you've ever seen that TV show. I would go into organizations undercover as a millennial who was looking for a job. And so I would walk into any company and walk up to the first person that I saw and I would say, hey, what's it like to work here? I'm just thinking about applying. And we would always wait a moment and then the employees would tell me everything. They'd tell me the good, they'd tell me the bad, because I wasn't a survey, I wasn't another employee of the company, I was just a millennial. I was another person outside of the organization who was genuinely interested in what it was like to work for those companies. And we worked with over 181 different organizations, and undercover, I've been able to interview over 10,000 employees. And the magic of all of the research was not when an employee was dissatisfied with their job, or when I asked, what's it like to work here? And an employee went off on all of the bad things about the company. The magic of the research was found when I would ask the question, what's it like to work here? And the employee would respond with, I love it here.
Wow.
I love my job. I love what we get to do. I love my manager, the organization, what we stand for. You've got to meet my manager, Betty. Betty, come here. And like those kinds of stories would happen continuously. And that's why we decided to title the book, I Love It Here, How Great Leaders Create Organizations Their People Never Want to Leave. And it was always the magic behind that response. And when that was consistent in an organization, employee after employee that I interviewed, when they would repeatedly say, I love it here, I love my job. And I think, unfortunately, not everybody can say that. And so it was always very, very, very significant to see what great leaders were doing to create that in the lives of their employees.
Absolutely. I was actually about to, just when you started telling me, I was actually about to just interrupt you and ask you that, did you really actually do that? That sounds absolutely interesting, and I feel like that's a very different take on trying to understand if employees are happy at the place that they work, and the fact that you got consistently correct replies, from everybody. That's just absolutely inspiring, Clint.
Well,
Moving on to the second, yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No, no, no. Please continue.
I was just going to say that the cool thing about it, and
Yeah.
that makes it somewhat different or unique, is that our research was done through the eyes of the employees.
Yes.
I'm not another leadership expert or a self-proclaimed leadership guru.
Mm-hmm.
I'm simply another millennial that created an environment where people could share their truth. They could really authentically speak. And I feel like the data that we've collected is the most real and authentic research through the lens of an employee when their leader was getting it right. And I think that's the goal of all great leaders, especially in the workplace, is to care for those people that look to you as a leader. How do you make sure that people are seen, heard, and understood? And if we can understand what that looks like through their eyes, we become more influential.
Absolutely. And I think the second question that I'm going to ask you is very connected to this, and I would definitely love to learn more about it. So, you're often known as the undercover millennial who helps organizations retain, engage, and inspire their employees. So, could you share some of these tips for retaining millennials and Gen Z in specific?
I know the Gen Z people go, I don't even know what that means. Why are you calling me a Gen Z? And even though it's the stereotypical generational mark of how we would view somebody, I think the first step in great leadership is to remove the label.
Right.
I think sometimes we lean on personality assessments, or we lean on a color code, or some way to understand people better.
Yes.
And unfortunately, based off of the year that you were born, we tend to label people with a generational nickname or a
Yes.
stereotype. And all of a sudden, for some reason, for good and bad, we start coming out with these labels that based off of the year you were born, you're supposed to act this way or you behave this way. And
Absolutely.
the simple fact is, I have found outstanding, incredible, effective, hardworking, bright millennials. I have also found really lazy, disengaged, non-motivated millennials. And I found the same thing in baby boomers. I found the same thing in Gen Z. The point I'm trying to make is that people are people. And I think if we remember as leaders that the quicker we are to view somebody as a human and not as a generation or a generational nickname, the better we are at connecting with that individual. I do believe that obviously the world that we grow up in and that we live in will determine how we view things.
Yes. Yes.
It will determine our perspective. However, every person is different. There is no one size fits all. And so that's the
Definitely.
first thing. Throw the generational stereotype out the door.
Yes, yes. And I feel like that's a very nuanced answer. And I feel like, especially for people, who have worked in this field for a long time and who have seen things, who have made their own observations about the kind of people that fit into a certain mold, it is very easy to get carried away and just assume that the next person that falls under that category will end up behaving the same way. But I feel like what
Exactly.
you just told us is a very, very nuanced answer because, again, that obviously predetermines the way that you think of people and the way that you treat them. So it's best to just eliminate that because you never know what might happen.
Absolutely. Everybody deserves a chance, and nobody deserves to be defined by their worst moments.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next question. So could you enlighten us in the power of the mentorship effect and how organizations can elevate their why of mentorship in the workplace?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the most unique and I think poignant pieces of all of our research was that when employees were dissatisfied with their work, they hated the manager. But
Yes.
when an employee loved their work, they loved the mentor. And the reason why I call it mentorship versus management is because mentorship is a very unique word. And we learned this through our research that there were 5 characteristics that allowed a manager or even a leader to become a mentor. And those 5 characteristics were simply this: they exuded confidence, credibility, competence, they had the ability to be candor, to have honesty. And then the 5th one is they knew how to care for people. Those 5 characteristics. And what's really interesting is as a leader, you might have a title, right? You're the manager, you're the CEO, you're the executive, you're the supervisor. But your people will decide if you're a mentor. That was what was
Absolutely.
so significant about it. Mentorship must be earned. If you look at any great story, any great film, you always have the character of the story, the hero, and they're going through, a difficult time. And then who pops up in the story that literally connects the hero to their dream? It's the mentor,
Mentor. Yes.
right? Like think
Absolutely.
about like Star Wars. Luke
Mm.
Skywalker had Obi-Wan, right?
Yes. Yes.
The Hunger Games. Katniss Everdeen had Haymitch.
Yes.
Frodo had Gandalf.
Yes.
Rocky, I love that movie. Rocky had Mick. Uh,
Absolutely.
Aladdin, right? Aladdin had the genie. Simba had Mufasa. These great
Everybody has
mentors.
someone.
Yeah, exactly. They showed up and they made the story better because of their
Yes.
confidence, their credibility. They were able to be honest, but they truly cared about the individual.
Absolutely.
Mentorship was so unique that we decided to look into it more, and it was this mentorship effect that great leaders had, that they earned the will of those that chose to follow them. You cannot become a mentor until the mentee invites you into their heart.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
I look back at some of the most influential leaders that we saw in our research, and they really truly were mentors. They were the people that, when their employees were with them, they liked themselves best because they were with that person.
Wow.
The mentor was somebody who could communicate the potential and the worth of an employee so well to the point that they saw it within themselves. And they said, I like myself best because I'm with you. I want to see more of you. I want to work for you. You are the person that connects me to my dreams. And when you can adapt those types of characteristics, when you become that type of person for your people, you become influential, memorable, and significant in the lives of
Yes.
your people, not just successful. And it was such a beautiful thing to witness.
That is so great, Clint. And I feel like I'm sure that most of our viewers and listeners will agree with me when I say this. Before today, I don't think I ever took the time to consider the difference between a manager and a mentor. Because sometimes when you enter into a corporate world, it's very easy to just assume that your manager is your mentor because they are sort
Yes.
of helping lead the way to who you want to be in this career of yours. But I feel like what you've said today is something to definitely consider, and I don't think I personally will ever be thinking about this any other way. So thank you so much for that. Moving on to the next question. So you specialize in helping companies diminish employee turnover, increase engagement, and create loyalty that lasts. So would you be willing to share some aspects of your secret recipe with our audience?
Yeah, one of the most significant things that we found was that great mentors, great leaders in an organization were really good at creating moments. Moments in the workplace where people experienced themselves best because they were with them, right? Great mentors know how to make sure that how people experience you and how they experience themselves when they're with you really matters. And they did that simply through moments. Moments are those significant times in our lives that are different. It's unique. It stands out. And people don't work for organizations. We found that people worked for mentors. And they didn't remember the days, they remembered the moments, specifically the moments that the mentors made in their lives. So I talked previously about the power of potential and worth, right? Great mentors communicate a person's potential and their worth so well to the point that they see it within themselves. Two of the greatest ways that mentors communicated the potential and worth of their employees was through growth opportunities and recognition. If your people cannot grow where they're at in your company, they will go and grow somewhere else. Long gone are the days where employees don't have options. And they're looking for that opportunity to become something. I look back on some of the greatest mentors in my life, and they simply created moments that communicated my potential. They looked at me and they said, "Hey, I just want you to know that I see you becoming a manager. You know what? I want you to know that your work ethic, and if you keep doing this, you're going to reach President's Club in our sales group. You have the opportunity to go anywhere you want in this company. And then they became an advocate, not just a developer. They advocated for the employee to get them to where they wanted them to go.
Wow.
So that's number one, create growth opportunities. Does everybody have a growth development plan? Does everybody know in your business that they have a future? That there is an
Right.
opportunity to move. Sometimes it's laterally, sometimes it's vertically, sometimes it's all over the place. But the opportunity to grow in an organization is critical. And then number two is just simply recognition. Man, it matters. Everybody wants to be
Yes,
seen, heard, and understood. And we
definitely.
found that there was 5 significant ways that employees wanted to be recognized, and it was simply just moments, right? They talked about the
Yes.
moments. I'll never forget when John did this for me, or my manager was there because of this. The number one reason, the thing that employees loved the most when it came to recognition was vocal praise. Vocal praise, that's it. Like
Right.
just a pat on the back, like, hey, nice job. We really appreciate what you're doing. I want you to know that I see what you're contributing to our organization. I see the efforts you're putting in. Vocal praise was number one. Number two was flexibility, time off. COVID-19, if there's anything that this pandemic has taught us, it has taught us to have flexibility
Yes.
in the workplace. It matters right now, and employees talk about it. The ability to empathize with an employee in their schedule, realizing they have a life outside of work.
Yes.
Number three was food. Things like Taco Tuesdays, bringing pizza in on Fridays. Food matters. Number four was actually money. Anybody that says that millennials don't care about money, I don't know where they got that, because it's just not true. A bonus, a raise, a gift card, monetary recognition still matters. And then the last one, I call it awards, toys, trophies. Everybody, loves a medal, right? Everybody loves a present. Uh, like things like, a pair of iPods, maybe a nice hoodie, some sort of a gift. Businesses and organizations and leaders that knew how to do that, those 5 different ways are critical, but I think above all of that, they learned how to personalize those.
Exactly.
They knew the individual. If somebody would rather, go skydiving, right? They want an experience versus an increase in pay. Ask your people in what way they want to be recognized. We saw time and time again how great leaders personalized the recognition to the individual. And in doing so, it created more of a significant moment because it was about the employee.
Yes.
Every leader should remember that all of your employees are asking you this question: let me know when it gets to the part about me. And I would say it's not so much about, some people think that's entitlement. It's not about entitlement, it's just about good business. It's about bringing humanity back into the workplace. Communicate their potential, communicate their worth.
I feel like this just puts things into a whole lot of perspective. And again, it's the little things that matter. They go on to become the big things. So even though the entire world is basically changing and there are so many developments in the field of HR, unless we realize that there is a personal touch to be given for every employee and his or her journey in that specific organization, it's nothing else is really going to matter. And I just feel like what you just told us puts everything into perspective. Thank you so much for that. And lastly, Clint, do you have any sound bites for our audience?
The biggest thing is to remember that it's not about success, it's about significance. If I were to ask you to tell me who the last 3 NFL MVPs were, or who are the richest people in the world, or who are the last 2 Academy Award winners for Best Actor, most people have no idea who those humans are. But if I told you to tell me the names of, 2 teachers in your life that made a difference for you, or tell me the name of one person in your organization who's been there for you during a difficult time,
Yeah.
chances are most people know who those people are. And it's the difference between success and significance. And people do not work for organizations, they work for mentors.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
when we remember that it's about people, and that people deserve to be seen, heard, and understood, And when people are a part of an organization where they're not just working for an organization, but they're working to build something that's bigger than themselves.
Yes,
Everybody wants to live, not just exist. And when we
absolutely.
as leaders create an organization where people can not just survive, but they
Mm-hmm.
thrive. They totally thrive. And they have the opportunity to do what they love. They have an opportunity to provide for their family. They have an opportunity to live with purpose. We can create that. And I've seen it time and time again when leaders have made that a priority.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do that, they empower their workforce. And an empowered workforce always increases productivity, profitability, brand recognition, greater marketing. But we must have a greater emphasis on people. And that's what gets remembered. And it's a beautiful thing when it's done right.
Absolutely, Clint. That was a wonderful note to end the interview on, I feel. So I'm sure that everything that you've said is definitely going to stay with our viewers because much like the way that you do your work, in the same way, I feel like everything that you just told us is going to stay with us for a long time. Because somewhere, even though this stands as a universal truth, I'm sure that every single one of the people who are viewing this today or listening to this interview today, this has struck a chord with them somewhere, based on their own personal experiences. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for being here today, giving us your time and your knowledge. It was a great conversation, and I wish you and your business all the success ahead.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.